Hello, Wayne here from Prophecy Proof Insights. In this video, I just want to briefly talk about an update to an article I've made. So from time to time, I will update some of my articles just to possibly make it more clear, or in some cases, I will add things. So I've recently added to an article that I call Satan's Biggest End Time Deception, which is basically about Revelation 17:8. Revelation 17:8 is basically a verse which describes the beast from the abyss being the Antichrist. And it has a really interesting phrasing to it, which basically says, the beast which thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. And later on the verse says, when the people whose name is not written in the book of life, when they behold the beast is described as was and is not and yet is. That description of the beast is a contradiction, because the beast is described as being dead and not being alive, but yet he is alive. And that is different than how Christ is described, which is basically, or how God is described, which is basically, he was, is, and will forever be. So the contradiction in the Antichrist's description suggests that Antichrist will have like a false resurrection taking place, where he will appear as if he's been raised from the dead, but he's not really raised from the dead, because he's not really resurrected from the dead because he's going to die later on. So I think Satan's biggest end time deception, of all the deceptions he's going to have during the end times, he's going to have false prophets, false Christs, fallen angels disguising as different people, and religious figures, stuff like that. The biggest deception he's going to pull off is making it seem as if the Antichrist has been resurrected from the dead, but he really has not been resurrected from the dead. That's his biggest deception, I believe. But what I've added to the article is a section about the timing of this deception. Now, the 7 week of Daniel has 2 halves, and at the midpoint, Antichrist is going to declare himself God in the temple of God in Jerusalem, the future third temple. So, at that point, this is when people are completely shocked by who he is. They're saying, who can make war with this guy? So this is the point where I believe that Antichrist will reveal himself or claim that he's been risen from the dead or resurrected from the dead. Now, the interesting thing about this tribulation of the 7 week of Daniel is the way that it's structured. The end point of the 7 week of Daniel is most likely on a Jewish holiday called Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. The Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, is usually in September or October. You subtract 1260 days, which is basically the length of a half of the tribulation, and that ends up in April. Now, sometimes, in some years, that date will fall on a very interesting date. Now, if you're Antichrist and you want to claim you've been risen from the dead, you're Satan, you have this person you want to portray to people that he's been risen from the dead, what day would you choose? Well, if you're going to mimic Christ, you're going to try to counterfeit what Christ did. Why not do it on Easter Sunday? Easter Sunday, the day that Christians celebrate or commemorate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Why not have the Antichrist do it on that day? And lo and behold, that is what is possible on some years. So in the table here, what I did was I took Yom Kippur and I subtracted 1260 days from that. And here you have these midpoint dates on this table falling on an Easter Sunday. You got 2021, 2024, 2027. These are in terms of start dates of the tribulation. So the tribulation started November 7th, 2021. You have an Easter midpoint at April 20th, 2025. Yom Kippur being September 30th, 2028, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of dates here where it actually falls on an Easter Sunday. So it's quite possible that we might see that Satan's biggest end time deception being pulled off on Easter, which would be which would not be really that big of a surprise, because Satan's trying to mimic everything that Christ did with the Antichrist. So, mimic his resurrection. Let's mimic the day that it's celebrated. Now, there is no Bible prophecy verse that forces the midpoint of the tribulation on Easter. So I want to make that clear. So even though there's Easter dates, it's not guaranteed it will be on Easter. But I find it very interesting that a lot of dates do fall on Easter. So it's going to happen in an April time period, no matter what. The midpoint will be during an April of some year. But I just found it interesting that Antichrist might do this claim that he's been risen from the dead at the midpoint of the tribulation on Easter. It's just really, really interesting. So you might want to check this out on my website, prophecyproof.org. Thank you for watching.